All right, we are recording. And if everybody would be so kind as to mute unless you want to ask a question. All right, well, we got about 5 minutes. I wanted to log on early. Let me ask a question. Can everybody see the presentation? Are you seeing the screen that says SVMBC webinar?
I'm seeing it.
Okay, and it's not flashing or doing anything weird?
No.
Yay. Because yeah, we did a similar thing on Wednesday night and my computer was freaking out. I don't know what was going on, so I tried to fix it. Maybe I did. Zoom recording here. And we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Dave Holt. I am the Scoutmaster of Girl Troop 582 in Saratoga and also District Chair for Polaris. If you are just joining us, we are recording this call. And also, if you wouldn't mind, please mute your microphone so that we don't hear background noise that might be occurring in your environment. What we're going to talk about tonight is not Cub Scouts, but we are going to talk about Scouts BSA and how to work in an online environment. If we could hold questions until we get to the end, then we can have a free-ranging conversation, a Q&A. And I've got everybody's questions you submitted with your sign-in, and we can go through some of those if they aren't answered in the presentation, and any other things that come up during the talk today. All right, let's see if I can get this thing to work. Okay, so this is what our agenda is. We'll go through online tools, troop meetings, patrol meetings, merit badge advancement, service projects, trail to first class advancement, Scoutmaster conferences, board of review, and then discussion around what things might be done to facilitate collaboration amongst units on best practices and other ideas, and maybe both at a adult leader level and also at a youth leadership level. So first thing we'll talk about is online tools.
Sorry to interrupt, but why don't you start recording?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, kick off the record button before you get too far in.
I believe it's recording.
Looks
It
like
is
it's in
recording.
here, yes.
Okay.
It is recording. Okay, so online tools. There are over a dozen free video conferencing solutions that you can choose from. As I have surveyed a lot of units, it seems that one of the most popular is Zoom. And Zoom allows up to 100 users in the free version with a 40 minutes timeout. Now, the interesting thing about the 40 minutes timeout is when you get to that 40-minute point, it kills the conference, and you just have everybody re-log in with exactly the same meeting credentials, same password and everything, and just resume the meeting. So it takes a couple of minutes to get restarted, but that allows you to use this free service and get all the benefits from it. One of the neat things is about Zoom is, like right now I'm looking at 30 pictures of people on half of a screen because I've got it set up that way. So you can see a lot of the participants all at once. Skype obviously is a very stable platform that's been around. There's WebEx, there's freeconferencecall.com. There are a whole lot of video conferencing solutions that are out there. But as I said, and also please, can everybody check to see that you're muted because I'm hearing some background noise. Let's see, there we go. Other tools that can be used beyond video conferencing, Discord is a platform that has been used by the online gaming community. It has voice and chat, and I know that some troops are using that as a solution, but it does not include video. And then Slack. Slack is probably many of you use Slack in your work environment. It allows for discussion streams and does allow for short or video calls with up to 15 participants. But what I want to really talk about most in the video conferencing section of this webinar is how to do this in a way that's safe for your scouts and the environment. So the first set of things is what to do about the ground rules. So we suggest that you send out an email or have your SPL, if the SPL is calling meetings, send out the email. And these are some suggested ground rules that and this is, first one's super important, that users do not share the invitation outside the unit. And this is why you do not want to post on a publicly visible online source what the credentials are for your meeting. What has happened is at high schools, colleges, and some scout units around the country, and even a VC, I guess, just this week, who was presenting, the credentials to the meeting were public. They didn't have their meeting configured correctly. Trolls got online and started pushing porn video onto the meeting. So obviously we do not want that to happen. And a very important way to prevent that is have the meeting not be known to the public. I think it's just a good reminder to have the scouts be in their scout uniform if it's going to be a troop meeting, for a patrol meeting, whatever your uniforming standard is for your patrol meeting. No recording of the meeting if it has youth participants. All right, so we're recording this meeting tonight. There are no youth participants on this meeting. And then, so those are the things to include in the ground rules. You might have some other ones that you want to emphasize. And again, I just want to emphasize, do not publish the meeting invitation, the credentials for the meeting, anywhere that can be viewed by the public. So now, as host to a video conference, whether it's your SPL or one of your adult leaders or you.
Is that the deal?
Okay, I'm hearing a sound here. Let's see, I'm going to mute this person. Okay. You can pre-configure your settings. And these are some examples of things that you want to go look in and do. First of all, don't allow the meeting to start before the host. That is very important to make sure that things don't happen before the host gets there. Next, don't allow users to take over screen sharing. So if you are using Zoom, in the middle of the bottom of the screen is a little green folder with an arrow. And if you haven't preset this setting before the meeting starts, then any user can take over screen share and show whatever's on their computer. And so that's where some of these trolls have been doing that and causing problems. Finally, you can configure to disallow banned users from rejoining. So if you were to have somebody maybe who is doing verbal abuse or on their video holding up inappropriate language or pictures or what have you, you can ban them, and then they can't come back in. So what does that mean? Well, it means the host needs to be paying attention and be ready to ban misbehaving users. And again, make sure there's no recording of youth. Okay, so one of the things that, another tool that's a little bit different is Google Classroom. And I'm not sure this is a great solution for troop meetings or patrol meetings, but I think it might be a really interesting solution for advancement work or merit badges. And so we have some troops that Rina Takahashi in Troop 2400 and 400 is using this for merit badges and some total first class requirements. What are the requirements? Well, everybody has to have a Gmail account. They can't be some other type of email account. And if they're youth, they can't use their pre-existing school Gmails. They have to create a new Gmail if they don't have one. If they're under 13, their parent will have to be involved and help them and choose a child account, but it still works okay. And obviously the admin, the teacher, the adult leader is going to have to set up, or is going to have a Gmail account as well. This then allows for the teacher to create course materials and to give assignments to students. So again, if you're a merit badge counselor and you wanted to use this, you could pre-configure what the assignments are and when the due dates were for those for the different online video sessions that you were going to have with your scouts. So pretty interesting. I have not personally played with this, but Rena has. If you know Rena and you have questions about this, I think she's very open to being the guinea pig and learning and answering questions that you have. So I just wanted to give her a shout out and tell you guys about that. Okay, so obviously what we really want to do for all of our scouts is to provide continuity, to provide them with some sense of normalcy in very unusual times. And so I'm going to stress throughout this entire presentation that one of our main roles is to try to keep things routine, to try to keep the scouts engaged and to keep the routine going. So for a troop meeting, I suggest you start the video conference 5 minutes early, kind of like I did for this conference call tonight. It allows you to configure, make sure everything is working. And it also allows the scouts to kind of filter in, which they do, as time progresses there. For keep the routine, I strongly suggest everybody for a troop meeting show up in their troop uniform with their neckerchief, and that's what their video would show them. And of course, the meeting's going to be run just the way it normally would if you were doing it in person. The SPL will do opening flags, oath and law, with a screen share of a picture of the U.S. flag. Then at the end of the meeting, Scoutmaster Minute and the SPL announcements, just the same way that you would do in your normal troop meeting. The thing that I would suggest that you do differently is that you shorten the meeting. It's a lot of troop meetings are 90 minutes, and it's a really long time to ask a youth to sit in front of a computer motionless for 90 minutes. So what we found to be very successful is to shorten the meeting to 30 minutes, maybe 45, certainly no longer than an hour. And that allows for basically one main topic for the meeting. And here's some suggested topics, and then on the next page, I'm going to have even more ideas for you. So first thing might be a guest speaker, an expert on a merit badge or a trail to first class requirement. One of the experts that we had come in at our very first troop meeting was a registered nurse who talked about COVID-19 in great detail for about 20 minutes with a really nice prepared presentation to educate the scouts on what's going on, why we're doing shelter in place, and why it's so important. And obviously you can have an expert on trail to first class, or you can have a scout present on a scout skill. And that's what our next troop meeting is going to be. The scouts, one of our patrols has created a whole Jeopardy-like online experience to do skills teaching. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about YPT in an online troop meeting environment. You have to have minimum two registered adults, just exactly as if you were meeting in person. And they have to meet the gender requirements based upon the gender of your troop. And lastly, no recordings because you have youth on the call. All right. So here are a bunch of activities to consider. I know that a lot of these URLs are going to be impossible for you to copy from this webinar. So we'll make this presentation available. Diane, who's on the call, hi Diane, can get this presentation to you. And each one of these URLs basically is a portal into a whole bunch of ideas on that site. So Scouting Magazine has a bunch. Our council has an entire page on the website, the council website, for scouting at home. A really neat idea that's sprung up in several councils is a 30-day challenge. And there are samples. This link takes you to a sample. I went and looked at the sample and I thought, well, that's a really cool idea, but that's not the right set of 30-day challenges for my troop. So you could suggest to your PLC, hey, PLC, why don't you guys come up with your own 30-day challenge? And that gives scouts something to do each day, a little bite-sized chunk to stay engaged with scouting. Second class requirement, 7C, is basically requires the scouts to attend a presentation on the dangers of drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. And you could have a guest speaker or one of your adult leaders give that presentation. And then, of course, the rest of 7C is that the scout discusses that with their family and then comes back and talks to the Scoutmaster and Assistant Scoutmaster. So that's an idea for you. Advancement instruction, as we talked about on the prior page. And then there's an awesome article in Brian on Scouting on the merit badges that can be completed completely online. There's unbelievable number, 58 merit badges can be completed completely over the internet. It's, the scouts do work and then show demonstration of the work to the counselor, but it does not require for actual meeting. So there are a lot of merit badges, and what I'm seeing a lot of troops do at the patrol level is patrols decide to work on merit badges and contact a counselor and then get things going. Lastly, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Jamboree on the Internet. Normally this happens in the fall, October, November timeframe, but because of COVID-19, a special edition of Jamboree on the Internet is occurring April 3rd through 5th. And here's the link for it, or you can just search for Jamboree on the Internet. Your scouts can go and sign up. As we get closer in time, you can go and sign up to participate in many of the different events that will be going as a part of Jamboree on the Internet. So that's a great idea. It's not really a troop idea, but it's a really cool idea for your scouts. Okay, patrol meetings. So again, I want to stress, keep the routine. The patrol leader schedules and runs the meeting just the way he or she does normally. Same uniforming that you would do normally in your patrol meetings, and an abbreviated agenda to reduce the meeting time. Once again, because of attention span and the ability for it to be enjoyable for the scout and fun, you don't want it to run long. Once again, same YPT requirements that you have normally, in that you need 2 registered adults who meet your gender requirements based on your scout's gender, and no recordings. So what are some cool activities? Well, this is where really I think the merit badges play well, because typical patrol attendance is somewhere in the 6 to 8 range, which is really great for working on a merit badge. The scouts can work on their workbooks individually, submit those to the counselor individually, and then have group discussions. I've already done the public health merit badge with a patrol, and the conversations and the contribution of the different scouts on each topic actually really added to the educational value that the scouts experienced. It was better than doing it one-on-one with a scout. Another thing that's awesome is we have, you may have some newly bridged AOLs in your troop. And there, you can have, depending upon how you do advancement, whether you have only ASMs doing advancement or whether you have star scouts or first class scouts who are enabled to do advancement with your scouts, the scout rank, in my opinion, can be completely completed online. And so work with those new AOLs, those new scouts. Go find out, go look in Scout Book and find out which of your scouts have not advanced to scout rank, and have your patrols work on that. All right, and then Honor Patrol. This is a really interesting time for patrols to go look at the Honor Patrol criteria, and if they're not already working on it, think about how they can work on that as a patrol. Lastly, there is an online game called Kahoot that is really well suited for this kind of 6 to 8 participants sort of thing. So that's a thing where your patrol leader may want to go investigate that and consider that to be the game that can be pursued in the patrol meeting. All right, merit badge advancement. So one of the things that we're working on as a council, and this is actively being worked on, is to identify which of our council's merit badge counselors will work online with scouts. We have a big long list, as you all know, of counselors in each district, but there's no information to say how to contact that counselor online and whether they will work online. And so that is a work in process right now that the Council Advancement Committee is working on to gain that knowledge. And then we've pretty much covered this. Counselor can request the worksheets via email. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about YPT for online merit badges. I'm going to meet you there, Randy. Okay. First thing is for a group, say you're working with a patrol or a small group of scouts on a merit badge online, you have to have 2 registered adults on the video conference, yourself as the merit badge counselor and a second adult, and you have to meet the gender requirements. So if there's any girls in the scout group, then one of the registered adults has to be female. So if there's just a small number of individuals, say 1 or 2 scouts that you're working with online, then a parent of each scout can substitute for that second registered adult. So if you're only working with 1, as long as that parent is there on the video conference call and stays there throughout the call, you as a merit badge counselor are covered from YPT standpoint. And that is true if you were to have 2 scouts. If both scouts' parent were there, then that would be okay. Obviously, that gets unruly as you get more and more scouts, and that's why you might want to have the second registered adult. And then just a reminder that all electronic communication, CC the parent on the electronic communication. And again, because you have youth on the video conference, no recording. Service projects. So I want to suggest that we collaborate. I have one service project defined for scouts to work on that is they can go individually and work on removal of invasive species. But there may be other ideas that you all have. Maybe it's an online service project. Maybe it's something they can do in their home for the benefit of our community or our service people or the hospitals or what have you. So we want to collect those ideas and we want to publish them for everybody to be able to benefit from. And the criteria really is that it benefits the community, not scouting. It's not political in nature. and it adheres to shelter in place. We don't want to propose something where scouts have to get together with other scouts. That is counter to being a scout being helpful in this COVID-19 reality. Send your ideas and proposals to me. I should have replaced Anthony with Diane. So me or Diane, and we will collect all of these ideas and publish the results. Okay, trail to first class. So again, we want the routine to continue for our scouts, and they want to work on advancement, and it's an awesome time for them to do so. Well, first of all, what can be signed off online? The answer is your units, your troops, Scoutmaster makes that decision. Who can sign off requirements online? Your units, your troops, Scoutmaster decides who can sign off. I created a Google Sheet that I've shared here with this link that has every Scout ranks, tenderfoot, second class, and first class requirement. The entire list of requirements from the current Scout book, all in line, all in a Google Sheet with color coding of whether I personally believe it can be completed online. But you can take that Google Sheet, copy it into your own Excel or Google Sheet to work within your troop and edit it. And if you don't agree, like you think, oh, Dave, you're silly, that shouldn't be done online. Okay, change it and make it your own unit's version that you can then use. So that's just an asset for you guys to use as you want. And again, I think this is a perfect time to get all of our new scouts and scouts who haven't quite made it to scout rank done and completed. Our PLC is working on this with, we have 13 scouts in our troop right now who have not completed scout rank, and each patrol leader has agreed that they're gonna work specifically with those scouts to get them all to scout rank. And then I have 13 Scoutmaster conferences coming my way. So, and we'll talk about Scoutmaster conferences here in a minute. Again, from a YPT standpoint, no recordings. If there is an adult involved, like if it's an adult doing the sign-offs, then you have to have a second, either a second registered adult with gender requirements met, or the parent of the scout can be there if you're working one-on-one with the scout. You just want to make sure you see the parent and that they acknowledge that they're supposed to remain there for the full call. Scoutmaster conferences, keep the routine. So the scouts email in a picture of their scout book advancement pages and their blue cards if they're working on Starlight or Eagle. So that you can see all of that and verify all of that. If you're using a complete online system with Scoutbook, you don't need to do that. Scout just needs to inform you that they're ready. And then you want yourself and the scout in full uniform, just as you would in your normal Scoutmaster conference in your troop. Once your Scoutmaster conference is complete and you are satisfied and you're ready to sign off, you can do that in Scoutbook. Or if you're not using that level of granularity in Scoutbook, then email the advancement chair and CC the scout and their parent after it's complete to let the advancement chair know which elements that the scout completed as a part of your Scoutmaster conference, because you may have signed off some additional things like Scout Spirit or participation or merit badges or what have you. So you want to make sure that you communicate that directly to the advancement chair so that it's not hearsay going through the scout.
No, I pushed a text to you.
I'm sorry? Okay. And then from a YPT standpoint, you want in your Scoutmaster conference, this is actually a different reality than normal Scoutmaster conferences. Because of YPT, you want either a registered adult to be there from the troop, so an ASM or another registered adult, or the parent of the scout to be visible and be there during the Scoutmaster conference. If it's the parent, my suggestion is at the very beginning of the Scoutmaster Conference is talk to the parent in a very nice way and remind them that they are there to satisfy the too deep adult requirement, but that this is really a conversation between the Scoutmaster and the Scout, and that their job is to remain quiet as a parent. If you have problem parents, and you all know which ones of your parents are, just use an ASM instead and don't use the parent because it'll be a mess. And then no recording. Board of reviews. Yep, question?
Oh, no, I just had a comment. So I actually did an Eagle Scoutmaster conference last week with one of my scouts. And it looks like it's really complex and hard, but it's actually easier than it looks. So it's as long as you follow the rules, everything worked out fine. So the Scout did great.
Yep, thank you, Chris. So I've also done. Sorry. So I have also done Scoutmaster conferences with scouts and parents involved, and it's worked great. I've had no issues. Okay, board of reviews. Believe it or not, there's an advantage to all of this online stuff, and it's in board of reviews. It's actually easier now to get parents to participate in board of reviews than it is normally. We find that we fill up our parents for the board of review very quickly, because people have time and they're at home. So again, keep the routine. Have the Scout email in the pictures of their Scout Book advancement pages, their blue cards. The Scoutmaster already has emailed what the Scoutmaster signed off. The Scout should be in full Class A for the board of review. And the Scout's going to leave the call for 5 minutes. Just tell the Scout, okay, sign off now and then come back in 5 minutes at the end of the board of review while the board discusses the meeting. From a YPT standpoint, there's a whole lot more to this than your board of review is used to. And you need to have your advancement chair and your board of review members read the Guide to Advancement, section 8.0.1.6, because there's a whole set of rules around holding a video online board of review. And there's some things with no exceptions. Everyone who's on the board of review must have video, it must be on, and they can't be in voice only mode, and there can't be anybody in the rooms who's not visible. So no invisible listeners to the board of review. It needs to be a private meeting between the board of review and the Scout. The parent of the Scout checks in at the very beginning and end of the conference, or if not available, there needs to be 2 registered adult leaders. And then there's no recording of the board of review. So all of these things are outlined in the Guide to Advancement. I urge your board to get that, read that, and follow that. Here, just as a resource for you, if you're interested, here's a sample letter that you can send out to your board of review participants and Scout. It's basically just a draft. It outlines all the rules. It goes through a bunch of how to be prepared as a Scout and so forth. So just as a resource. Okay, so collaboration. We're getting to the end of our prepared material and getting ready for discussion. So one of the things that we've been talking about is, should we create a Slack channel for people to collaborate, and if there's interest, we can look at doing that, or other preferred collaboration tools. Should there be a collaboration tool for the Scouts, for the youth leadership, for the SPLs and ASPLs? So those things are worth discussing and talking about here in just a minute. And lastly, here are some other resources that are in this presentation. If you don't already have these links, here they are. Well, you can forget about the first one. That's just the Polaris district, but national guidance on online advancement, and then the page from the council on COVID-19. So with that, I'll open it up to everybody talking. You can remember you're muted right now, so if you want to ask a question, unmute, and we'll dive into things.
Hey, Dave, it looks like we had 2 questions online that we want to discuss probably as a group.
Okay.
First one was, what do you do if you are the Scoutmaster with your own child for Board of Reviews?
Could you have your spouse be the parent? That would be my suggestion. You definitely don't want the, so you would ask 2 other, well, for Board of Review, the Scoutmaster would be fine. The Scoutmaster just steps in as the parent in this scenario at the very beginning of the meeting, and then steps out and is gone until the scout comes out and says, okay, I'm gone for 5 minutes. And then they come back in again with the scout at the end. So the Scoutmaster would not be in the Board of Review during it occurring, according to 8.0.1.6. The parent does not stay there during the meeting.
I think the question is more around Scoutmaster conferences with your own. For that, you would need another Scoutmaster or utilize one of your ASMs for that conference. Board of Review is not, that's the board.
Yeah, ASM, so I think that's right. Use one, like what do you normally do in your troop? So I would say you would use an ASM. Like what I ask my daughter to do is go to one of the other ASMs, right? Absolutely. So yes, there are several questions in here, so let me just start going through these. How will the council handle Eagle Scout paperwork? There is very specific guidance being worked on by the Council Advancement Committee on this right now that will then be filtered out to the district advancement committees, and the district advancement chairs will work with your units if you have an Eagle Scout in process. Is there an account we can use for virtual meetings and or presentation? To my knowledge, there is no council account for presentations, like no GoToMeeting or Zoom account that the council has to lend out. There are lots of free ones. So just go sign up for a free one and use a free one. Without camping, here's a question. Without camping, can we sign the requirements that need to be done on the camp out? No. National's very, if you go read the Q&A on advancement from National, they are very clear. You cannot change the requirement remains the same. So if it says you have to do such and such on a camp out, you have to do such and such on a camp out. And so so if they cook at home and show the cooking skill, would that count? No. I mean, there are parts of the cooking merit badge that are done at home. Those parts work just fine. That's great for the scouts to do right now. But the part where they have to do it on a hike or a backpacking trip, they have to do that on a hike or a backpacking trip. So they have to wait until they can do that again. What scout skills, go ahead.
Would video recording of that suffice?
If they have a video recording of them on a camp or a hike out, a backpacking trip or a hike doing that, absolutely, yeah, sure. They just have to be on the backpacking trip or, I mean.
Right, okay, yeah. So, okay, the question is not whether they can do it at home versus on the trail or out, okay.
Yeah, they have to meet the requirements. Okay, here's a bunch of detailed questions. Let me see if I can tackle these. Does scouts should be visible during online meetings? So does a scout have to be visible during an online meeting? And what if their computer doesn't have camera and or mic? All right, so that's a really great question. Diane, do you have any specific guidance on that question?
I do not have any great guidance on that, because it's always best to have them there. Let's put a star next to that
All
one.
right,
and
we'll
I
find
think I'll
out.
have
We'll
to
find out the
research
answer to
what-
that.
Dave, this is Christine.
Yes.
A lot of the scouts, when we did the board of review, they were using their phones for the Zoom call. So if their laptop doesn't have it, most of them do have a phone, or they could borrow their parents' phone to do the call.
Oh, that's a great idea. Great suggestion. So most everybody has access to a phone which can do the video conference call from the phone. Okay, great. Thank you, Kim. That was awesome. Okay, merit badge counselor counts as registered adult without paying a fee. Okay, I don't think that's true. I think merit badge counselors have to submit a fee with their merit badge, with their adult application, right, Diane? They don't get free applications.
Incorrect. Merit badge counselors, I believe, are one of the few free positions.
Really?
It's that and institution head.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm sorry, I'm wrong. That's good to know. So what's the difference between paying fee or not for registered adults? So all other registered adults, I think, do have to pay a fee.
Correct.
And it doesn't matter, for YPT, it doesn't matter whether you're a merit badge counselor or another kind of paid registered. I mean, whether you pay or not, it doesn't matter. The question is, did you register with an adult application and sign the waiver that lets the BSA do a background check on you?
I will clarify that every merit badge counselor does get the background checked. That's
Yes.
the most important part.
Right. Question is, who, if there are more questions, who would they email to? Diane, do you want that to be you?
Bring them on. Love a good
All right.
question.
Okay. Next question. Eagle Court of Honor. I don't know about how to do an online Eagle Court of Honor. I haven't yet had to tackle doing any kind of Court of Honor online. Is anybody on the call done a Court of Honor online yet with your troop?
My question would be why? It's if you're going to do a court, if the Eagle Scout, the Court of Honor is not a mandatory requirement. It's a optional requirement. If you're going to do it, then just postpone it and wait until there's a time that's more relevant. If you are going to do it, because the Scout is going off to the service academies, for example, for plebe year, then if they really want to do it virtually, then you would set it up just like you do a meeting here. And at that point, the only difference would be the issue of, do you invite everybody on a guest list, and you just expand out the guest list. But it's going to be no different than doing a Zoom meeting.
Yep.
It's just going to be a little bit, I
think that's a great
very
feedback.
informal.
Thank you, Glenn. And that's right. So I'm wondering if they really meant Board of Review, but at any rate. And then second question was the Eagle Service Project. And the answer is the discussion on the Eagle Service Project has to occur between the Eagle Scout and the Advancement Committee for their district. And they're going to have to work that out. And how long this shelter in place extends and what that does to scouts who are close to age limits is the next question. And so the answer is, if a scout, if this COVID-19 shelter in place is causing a scout to not be able to complete their Eagle by their 18th birthday, we encourage that scout to seek an extension working through their district advancement committee and their district executive. We would encourage them to seek an extension.
So there's specific guidance that was issued out by National yesterday about this, because we have a scout who's in this boat because of his project. And it is basically, they will accept an extension for Eagle Scouts only. So Life Scouts going towards Eagle. And basically you have until September at this point. Now that may change based on extensions of shelter in place, but for now, the guidance is that you submit the paperwork, It actually came out through council yesterday, I think. But I know it came out on the national side because we're having to submit a packet for that at the moment.
Yep. Thank you. But the Scout has to take the action to work with the advancement committee to submit that extension request.
Yeah, it's going to have to be. It has to be signed as of this point. It has to be signed off by the Scout and the committee chair.
Yep. And then
So I have a
Yes?
quick question regarding a lot of the Eagle Scout stuff. And I guess my question is, I'm guessing a lot of these questions are already answered in a specific place. Is there a place I can go to the Q&A, which maybe I'm not aware of?
Yeah, I gave a link to that right here, this very last page, National Guidance on Online Advancement. This link here is that will be in the presentation that you get from Diane. Has that link.
I'll get it in the chat in a moment.
Okay.
Okay, terrific. And I also had another question that maybe got a little bit overlooked. What is everyone doing in regards to summer camp? Do we know what the disposition is, what the recommendations from National are regarding summer camps? Are they going to be open? Do we need to get payments up there? Is there a guarantee the payments are going to come back to troops? All that kind of good stuff.
I'm going to let Diane cover that one.
Yeah. So first thing is with, oh wait, Bruce is a much better person to take this call.
Okay, I'm the camp director at High Sierra, and we're waiting for board approval right now on our statement that we're going to send out to everybody for High Sierra. But in a 5,000 foot level, we are going to make decision points at certain times of, are we going to keep camp open? We're breaking camp open. We're breaking camp into two parts, basically weeks 1 through 3 and then 4 through 6. And at a certain date, we'll say we're going to run with weeks 1 through 3. And another date we'll give you, we're going to run through just 4 through 6.
Now, are these council by council?
Everything's going to be council by council.
So
we'll also
in our
publish.
particular instance, we're going up to Camp Baker in Oregon. So we're at the behest of that council, and that's the only decision points I should be concerned with at this point is what comes out of that Oregon council?
That's what I would say.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, we're following federal and state and local guidelines, national guidelines in making these decisions if we're going to keep camp open or not.
Terrific. Thank you. That was helpful.
I would say that if you're crossing state boundaries, that you've got to make sure you're meeting the state requirements for both.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I've been looking into that. But we're trying to figure out a lot of logistical issues there. One of which is living within both Oregon and California's particular rules regarding COVID. The other is using public transportation because we had originally planned on taking the train from the Bay Area up into Oregon, and we're evaluating whether that's a great idea at this point and what national folks are saying about being in enclosed places like that, if it's even available still.
And there was a question about International Rendezvous 2020. That will also be in that letter. We have not made a decision on that yet either. We're involving risk management as well into this decision-making process.
All right, I've got this presentation. I'm going to stick the, actually, I'm going to put the presentation in the chat too. So there you go. So might want to go ahead, if you want the presentation, go ahead and download it now out of the chat because you may be hard to get to after the meeting is over with. Any other discussion?
Dave, it looks like we still have a few questions from people online in the chat.
Okay.
One was, can a Scoutmaster conduct a Scoutmaster conference in person if they maintain 6 feet separation? I'll go ahead and respond of, we still want to advise against meeting in person. Those are national guidelines and state, local, county suggestions. We'd recommend doing digital unless you're in the same household.
All right. Any other questions from the chat?
Yes. I know that Anil had one. Anil, if you can hear me, go ahead and ask your question again while I go back and find it in the chat.
Yeah, so question was for the blue cards on the Google Drive. Do you guys have a cheat sheet that we could use, or are we developing it ourselves?
So I just wanted to clarify, what are you looking for, online blue cards, or are you looking for help, like worksheets for merit badges?
No, worksheets are, I know where to find them. It's just the blue card. So I can, if we conduct this merit badge counseling online through a conference, it would be great to then sign off on those requirements.
Gotcha. So if you use Scoutbook, you can just use that. You don't have to use a physical blue card. Dave or any of the other Scoutmasters, any other guidance for recording online advancement?
So Scoutbook is the easy way to do that. If you don't use Scoutbook to record at the requirement by requirement basis in your unit, and my unit does not, then what I'm doing is I have a Google Sheet. Like I said, that I've shared you a link to the template, and then just keep track of each scout when they complete something. If they complete it with another scout, a first class scout or above is our rule. They tell me that, and we put it in there. And then when we finally get a chance to meet in person again, whenever that is, we'll go in and update everybody's hard copy scout book with what they did.
Hello?
But otherwise, you can use Scoutbook, the app. If
Okay.
I have a question. Hello?
Yes.
Hi, I don't know if this is Sarah. Does it show that it's Sarah?
Yes, it does.
Okay, great. My son's working on his Eagle binder. If he completes any merit badge, all those blue cards are supposed to go into the Eagle binder. How does that work if we're doing these virtually things?
So I can take that one. Blue cards have not been required to be in the Eagle binder for the last 2 years.
Oh,
They actually pull it up through Scoutbook and look at what's logged into Scoutbook.
okay.
So, for example, Camp High Sierra has not issued blue cards now for 2 years.
Oh,
We just print off a report that gets sent back to the advancement chair for the troops.
okay. Good information. Thank you.
Which, by the way, Bruce, is really sad because we can't do the blue card angels anymore.
We have kept that one box from 2 years ago.
They're certainly nice to have for the scouts for their record. And you can, once this is over, you can always request a blue card from your Scoutmaster afterwards, but it's not a requirement.
Great ideas.
Has anyone thought of Eagle projects that could be done while we're at this shelter-at-home place? Especially looking at it for the girls that are trying to get into this inaugural class of Eagles and have a very fixed time requirement. And it looks like National is not going to ease up on that.
Oh, okay. It looks like the slides I put into the presentation or into the chat only went to Daryl Thomas. Daryl, can Can you put those back into the main main line? I don't know how that happened. That was weird.
Sure, I'll repost them.
Thank you. Yeah, because they're hidden in my screen right now and hard for me to find.
I think JP and Christine have a good note as well. They just posted, you can also print out the blue card report from Scout Book if the Scout wants to have physical copies. So that's a good point of clarification. Sam also had a question of, is Scout Book internet advancement? The answer is no. They're similar but different. Someone who actually uses the system, please explain.
Well, the entry point is different, but I think they're the same. So when you go in through internet advancement, through my.scouting.org, through legacy tools, it takes you to Scoutbook. So you're in Scoutbook from internet advancement 2.0. But you actually, if you looked up at your URL, you're on scoutbook.com when you go in through internet advancement 2.0. Thank you, Daryl.
You're welcome. Can everybody else see them?
Yeah, that's in the chat. So the slides,
thank you.
Yes.
the slides from tonight are in the chat now. I put them in there as a reply to Daryl only. I don't know. I dragged and dropped, and that's what happened. So who knows? At any rate.
Hey, well, I've got the floor. I'll comment some more about the summer. NOAC is continuing as planned. I know that Camp Curran is shutting down for the entire summer, but Algedo is still planning to be open. So it's definitely camp by camp. Maybe council by council, maybe camp by camp.
And it's going to be fluid because none of us know what's going to happen. So we're just going to have to play it by ear and see what happens.
As we were talking about state boundaries, it was interesting. It reminded me that about the county boundaries. So the county guidance here in San Mateo is basically not to leave your area. You know, shelter in place means staying in your own neighborhood. Don't drive to another neighborhood to go do your exercise. Stay where you are so you're not doing any transmission. Hopefully it'll all be very different this summer, but right now we're not even supposed to head to our own scout camps.
Yep.
So I want to coming back to, I'm reading the comments on the Eagle projects. So something that could be done is to keep things in line, because the concept of an Eagle project, I believe, is still the lines of being able to show holistic project management skills across the entire gamut from start to finish, which one of the hardest parts of creating a website and creating a lot of things online is the challenge of how do you lead. And our scout who's having a challenge with his Eagle project right now, he's actually doing a construction project for a local agency. And what we have been talking about is how do we include the program management? And one way that we could do it, and this is something that I was thinking about for building owl houses, for example, is you can still do the project management. You could still procure all the materials. You could then have a pickup point for the materials, and each scout just takes their materials home with them and builds their own owl house and brings it back. It's a different way of managing because now you've got to manage remote logistics and making sure they can build it. But you can still do some of the projects that people have done. You can't do things like clearing invasive species because obviously people have to go out and do that in groups. But things where you're supporting agencies, especially if you're building small things or construction things that you could potentially bring home and they could work out of their house to do it. And then you co-locate all the final things and have them delivered to whoever their sponsor is. Those are other possibilities to do physical work in addition to just electronic work. I mean, electronic work is a great object. There are databases and other things that a lot of agencies need right now to help solve that. But I do think there are other things that we can do that are physical too, that would give the scouts the feeling of actually participating instead of just building something online.
Yeah, I mean, on on the service project thing, we're very interested in everybody's ideas. So as I said earlier, we would love it if you have an idea and can kind of define a service project, and send it in to Diane or me. We want to collect those and offer them back to everybody.
Yeah, and Dave, I think I was focusing more on the Eagle Scout only because going back to the girls and well, just Eagle Scouts that are coming up on Eagle and are going to hit a timeline is how do you fit all those in? And I think there is a lot that can be done, and maybe that's
your idea is really good. It's just going to be a different kind of planning for the Scout, right?
It is, but you can still do it all online. It's just a matter of, and I guess my take would be if we take it back to council to help them consolidate this together and start pushing some of these other ideas out that could work. Because I think a lot of Scouts are going to be curious about this over the next 3 months.
Yep.
Thanks.
Good feedback. All right, Diane, do you think we're done? It sounds like the questions have died off and.
Yeah, looking at what people submitted ahead of time, the only thing I think people wanted a little bit more of is ideas on what to do in meetings. So I wanted to see if anyone on the call had great ideas of things you've done in your troop that you want to share with the group, either in the chat or speaking up.
This is Tim Johnson, Troop 614 in Scotts Valley. We actually haven't had a meeting yet, but we're planning on doing, I think, Scouting Heritage Merit Badge for the first one, and then break out patrol meetings to do Scout skills like knots and lashings and first aid and stuff like that.
We haven't had a meeting either yet, but my PLC, our troops going to Philmont next year, so they're going to take the opportunity and do like pack checks where they can, it's easier for them to lay everything out at home on their bed and they just kind of show it rather than have to bring it in. So they're excited not to have to pack their backpacks for it.
So on the
Awesome.
question about turning in Eagle packets, I just did that actually yesterday. There is a link that I just put in the comments at eagles@svmbc.org. You can scan or take pictures with your phone of all the documents that need to be in an Eagle packet, including the front of the packet, and send it to that email address. And Deb Olson will then go through it just like she would do a normal Eagle packet.
And we still have the support staff are working remotely, so it's just working to get them that content. They're planning to have some sort of a guidance email come out probably early next week.
I want to take this opportunity to ask all of you to work with your Friends of Scouting folks at your district level. I don't know how many of you know this, but the staff at council has been put on 4-day work weeks. And so they are down 20% of their income, or they're using up their PTO every week on Fridays. So staff is only being paid Monday through Thursday now. So, and the reason is Friends of Scouting is woefully behind target across the council. So one of the things all of us can do is to work with our district Friends of Scouting people to solicit Friends of Scouting donations from the families that are still employed and that can afford it. You know, obviously we have families in our units who are facing unemployment right now. So we can't expect everybody to be able to help, but those who can, we need to go out and ask them to, because our council is hurting just as lots of other areas of the economy are hurting. So just FYI, I know that's completely off topic for this particular call, but I want you guys to understand what's going on, and it does impact our professionals right now.
So Diane, I had a question in that, is there a way to mass update what your ASMs are basically allowed to counsel for merit badges? Because basically, I mean, my SPL and my leadership group, they have determined what merit badges they want to work on. And what I would like to do is that all my currently registered merit badge counselors, we just update and say, I want them across the board to counsel for these. Is there a way that we can do that within council?
I believe so. I know that Greg Buchanan is our volunteer lead who oversees all of the merit badge counselors for the council. So he's our best person to talk to. Oh, I may have frozen. Oh, I'm back. I know that you will, first step, even if with normal procedures, is you would fill out the merit badge form and add the additional ones. I suspect it's going to be the same thing as you fill out the merit badge counselor form, adding the extra things they are going to do, and then you email to someone, either Greg Buchanan or Deb Olson or me, and we get it to the right person.
Okay.
So one of the things they taught us at camp school was that if you are a registered merit badge counselor, you basically could do any merit badge if you feel you're qualified to do it. And you really don't have to send it to Greg, especially if it's just going to be for this short period of time and you don't want to be permanently. But if you do want to do that long term, then I highly suggest that you get on Greg's list.
Good.
That is
I
true.
think that's
That
right.
is true.
Bruce nails it. That's absolutely good advice.
Yes, but if you're willing to do this merit badge for others, I please encourage you to let us know so you can make the list for that merit badge.
Good.
All right. Well, I would like to suggest that we end our webinar. And Diane, thank you for organizing this, and thank all of you volunteers and professionals for what you're doing for our youth. This is a tough time for them. They don't get the social engagement with their peers the way they normally do, and they're missing it. And Scouting is providing an avenue for them to get that. And you know, you guys are helping make that possible when you do these online meetings. So it's very valuable. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys for doing this evening. Thank you.
Yes, thanks
Outstanding.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I
Thank
look forward to the next one.
All right. Now I got to figure out how to end the meeting.
Lower right-hand corner.
There it is.